Hello everyone. So today's challenge in recording the share was wind. I know, wind doesn't sound like a big deal, but the problem is that I record the share generally on the porch of my bungalow, and the curtains are blowing in and out, and I tried weighing them down, so the weights are whacking me on the head, and all sorts of problems. So I tried moving outside to a quiet place, and guess what? The wind blows in the microphone, and all you could hear is shh. So that was today's challenge. So today we're moving indoors and we're doing the share indoors. So once again, I miss everybody, but at least we have the ability to do the share this way. So we are beginning today, before we get into Dirshu, we're beginning Pirkei Avos Perek Beis. Baruch Hashem, we finished all 18 Mishnayos of Perek Aleph, and now we are on to Perek Beis. 1 second. Okay, there we go. All right. So the Mishnah says, Rabbi Omer, Rabbi said, Eizohi derech yeshara sheyavar loy ha'adam. What is the straight way, the proper way, that a person should choose for himself? How should a person comport himself? How should he choose what to do? Says the Tana, Kol shehi teferes la'iseha. It should be something that is glorious for the person who does it. V'teferes loy min ha'adam. And it is also glorious to other people. What does that mean? That means that a person should act in a way which is pleasant for him, it works for him, and it also has to be something that other people look at, and they say also that this is good. This is something that other people look at, and they say, yes, this is a good way to act. And we'll get into it. We'll get into what that means. The Mishnah continues, V'avizahir b'mitzvah kala kiv'chamura. You should take great care to do a mitzvah properly if it's a mitzvah kala. If it's a mitzvah that seems to be, so to speak, a lightweight mitzvah, a mitzvah that people don't think is such a great mitzvah, kiv'chamura, as if it's a stringent mitzvah. And again, we're going to get into what this means. Because you can't weigh one mitzvah against another mitzvah, because you don't know the value of one mitzvah as compared to another mitzvah. The Torah Kedosha does not tell us the schar for a mitzvah saseh. So you don't know, how are you going to weigh which mitzvah is a greater mitzvah than another one? So you can't choose between one mitzvah saseh and another mitzvah saseh and decide, this one I'm going to be scrupulous in and this one I'm not. You don't know what's what. When it comes time to do a mitzvah, sometimes you look at a mitzvah and you say, this mitzvah is going to cost me a lot of money. If I'm going to go eat matzah on Pesach and I'm going to buy shmura matzah, hand shmura matzah, that matzah is going to cost me more than lamb chops. If I'm going to spend hundreds of dollars on an esrog, that's going to take me out hundreds of dollars. But you should know, have a mechashev hefsid mitzvah keneged schara. When you look at how a mitzvah is going to set you back, so to speak, you have to weigh that against what you're going to get out of the mitzvah. The mitzvah is going to cost you money. What's money? Money is something temporal. What are you going to get for the mitzvah? For the mitzvah, you're going to get chaya olam haba. You're fulfilling the ratzon habayre. How can you make such a comparison? Uschar avera keneged hefseda. So too, when you look at what you can, so to speak, get from doing an avera, person is tempted by an avera, so he has to look, what's that quick little hana that he's going to get from doing that avera? Whatever avera you could visualize, whatever avera you could imagine, the averas that people have a taiva for. So ultimately, what are you going to gain from doing that avera? You're going to get 5 minutes of Olam Hazeh. You're going to get a half an hour of Olam Hazeh. Let's say it's going to be unbelievable Olam Hazeh. It's going to be it's going to be so pleasurable. You're going to have so much hana from that avera. How long is it going to last? How long is that hana really going to last? And then keneged hefseda. Weigh that pleasure against the loss of doing the avera. From doing that avera, what loss are you going to have? How much gehenim are you going to suffer? Or in this world, how much yisurim are you going to get? What pagam, what damage are you going to do to your neshama, to your eternal neshama? What damage are you going to do? And that's going to become as a result from that avera. V'histakel b'shloisha dvarim. And a person should look at 3 things. A person should look at 3 things, and if he pays attention to those 3 things, he'll never come to do an avera. What are those things? Da mala mala mimach. A person should understand what's above him in Shamayim. Ayin Raya, there's an eye that sees all. So there's an eye that sees and records everything that you do. Va'izin Shemas, there's an ear that's hearing. There's a recording that's going on of everything. V'chol ma'asecha b'sefer nichtavin, and all of your deeds, all of your ma'asim are recorded and written down in a sefer. Okay, that's the Mishnah just read and translated, but there's a lot of biur, there's a lot of explanation that's needed in this Mishnah. So now that we read the whole Mishnah, let's go back to the beginning of the Mishnah. Rabbi says, what's the derech yeshara? What's the best thing that a person should choose? How should a person choose to act? And I happen to like very much the if not the exact pirush, but the derech. There's a pirush on Pirkei Avos called Tiferes Tzion, very, very beautiful pirush that exists on Pirkei Avos, on Mishnayos, and on some Mesechtes and Bavli. Very beautiful pirush. And the approach that he takes over here seems to be that in this Mishnah, what Rebbe is doing is, Rebbe is addressing a person who wants to grow in Ruchnius. A person who wants to do the right thing. But he needs to have the ability to choose what to do and what not to do. He wants to act in the right way, but he needs some guidance. He wants to know, how should I act? So Rebbe says, what's the best way that a person should choose for himself? And Rebbe says, Kol shehi teferes la'oseha. It has to be something that brings glory to the person that's doing it. The way the Rav says, sheyehein noyach loy. It doesn't mean glory necessarily that people will heap praise on him. But what it means is, sheyehein noyach loy. You want to know, you want to act al pi Torah, but you have to know how to choose what to do. Realize that the Torah Akdosha dracheh darchei noyam v'chol nesiv shalom. The ways of the Torah are pleasant, and the ways of the Torah bring peace. You want to know how you should act. You want to know what the right thing to do is. It's supposed to be something that is noyach loy. It's supposed to be something that's pleasant for the person that's doing it. That's kol shehi teferes la'oseha. At the same time, it has to be v'teferes loy min ha'adam. It has to be something v'yiyu noichin b'nei adam mimenu, the Rav says. That other people who see the way this person is acting, it should be something that's noyach for other people. Other people should be happy with the way this person is acting. So there's a balance over here. And the famous pirush of the Rav gives an example when it comes to giving tzedakah, let's say. So it depends. A person could decide that he's going to be stingy and he's not going to be a giver. Well, that might be noyach loy. That might be pleasant for him because he holds on to all of his money and he never gives anything away. So he amasses wealth. And maybe that's noyach loy. Maybe that's teferes loy min oseha. Maybe that's good for the person who's doing. But is that teferes loy min adam? Do other people look at that and say, yes, that's a way to act? No. Other people look at it and say, what a stingy person. What a miserly person. He doesn't know how to give a nickel. This person can't take a dime out of his pocket. You want to separate Yankel from $1? Forget it. Good luck. You're going to need a truck jack to pry him away from his wallet. So it's teferes loy min oseha. It's good for him, but it's not teferes loy min adam. What's teferes la'oseha and teferes loy min adam? Well, let's try the other extreme. Let's say a person is going to give away everything. Whatever he has, he gives away. And now he doesn't have what to eat. And even if he's happy, how about the people who live in his house? How about his children? How about his wife? Person doesn't hold on to a nickel. He gives everything away, and there's no food in the refrigerator, and the cupboard is empty, and the cupboard is bare. So now the children are miserable, the wife is unhappy, other people are happy. Everybody knows they could come to Yankel, and they could always get money from Yankel. So it's teferes loy la'adam, but it's not teferes la'oseha. It's not good for the people that are doing it. The proper way is a middle approach. The proper way is give what you're supposed to give. And the Chazal give us guidance on what we're supposed to give. There is guidance. Give meiser, give a chaimish. So there is guidance of what to give. So give. but also you have to have for yourself at the same time. So you have to give, but there has to be a middle ground. It has to be Tiferes, there has to be Tiferes Lo'oiseha and Tiferes Lo'imina Adam. You're a giver that works for other people as well. Now, this has bearing not only when it comes to giving tzedakah. This has bearing on a lot of things. Let's say when it comes to doing chesed. So you have a person, everybody knows, you need a chesed, go to Yankel. Yankel is a big Baal Chesed. But sometimes Yankel becomes a Baal Chesed full of resentment. He's tired of doing all the chesed that he does. He does too much chesed. He does things that he can't do. He does things that he's not happy doing. He does things that are just above and beyond, but not above and beyond in a positive way. Above and beyond in a way that he's not happy, that his wife isn't happy, that his children aren't happy. There has to be a middle ground. You have to do, but don't do things that are going to fill you with resentment. Now, sometimes you'll say, this person gets full of resentment very easily. He doesn't want to do for anybody. Well, again, that's not the Tiferes Lo'imina Adam. Then people look at him and say, you need help, don't go to him. It has to be both. It has to be, people look at Yankel and they say, oh, Yankel is a gewaldige Baal Chesed. But Yankel could also walk around with a smile on his face. He's not overtaxing himself. He's not, sometimes a person gets a phone call. Could you host a family for Shabbos? We're making a Shabbaton. Could you host a family for Shabbos? Sometimes it's something that you can do. Sometimes it's something you can't do. Sometimes your wife had a very, very hard week, and she's exhausted, and she's tired, and she needs a quiet house. You're going to come in and you're going to say, guess what? I'm so happy. We're hosting a family with 7 kids. Your wife is going to turn around and say, I can't do it. Yeah, but it's a chesed. So very nice. So now you're going to have her do this chesed. By the time Motzi Shabbos rolls around, she's tzabrachen. She's wiped out. If she's working, she has to go back to work Monday morning. She can't do it. If she can't do it, don't have her do it. If you can't do it, don't do it. Don't do what you can't do. You have to bring yourself to a place that you can do chesed, but it has to be chesed that you can do without resentments. It has to be chesed that you could do without suffering. Again, the Torah HaKadosh is drachei darchei noyam, v'chol nesivei se'ah shalom. So that's the first installment of the mitzvah of the Mishnah. Can we go a little bit further? No, I think we're going to stop over there. And Mirz Hashem, tomorrow we'll continue with this Mishnah. But again, the thrust of this Mishnah is the person who wants to grow and the person who wants to do the right thing, but he needs guidance in how to make his decisions. And that's what we're going to continue the theme of this Mishnah. Okay, now we continue our Shir and Dishu B'Halacha. We are holding on the bottom of Reish Mem Gimel Amid Beis. We're in Siman Shin Ayin Daled at the end of Sif Aleph. So again, let's recapture what we were talking about over here in Siman Shin Ayin Daled. We're talking about a case where we have 2 chatzeros. We have chatzer A and chatzer B. We have our classic example of bungalow colony A and bungalow colony B. So you have 2 chatzerim that are adjoining one to the other. Chatzer A has its 20 bungalows, its 20 units. Chatzer B has its 20 units. And there was a fence. There's a fence that cuts across the 2 units that separates them. And there's a gate in the fence. And you could walk from one to the other. So we've always said, you have a gate between 2 chatzeres. Now your options are wide open. If you so desire, Chatzer A can make its own Eruve Chatzeres. Chatzer B can make its own Eruve Chatzeres. Chatzer A makes it Eruve Chatzeres. Now all the people who live in Chatzer A are allowed to take a Keli Sheshavas Babayas. They're allowed to take the lawn chair that started out Shabbos in their bungalow, and they can bring it out to their Chatzer for the Pirkei Avos on Shabbos afternoon, or vice versa. But they cannot take a lawn chair from a bias from a bungalow in their Chatzer and bring it over to bungalow colony B for the Pirkei Avos in bungalow colony B, because they didn't make a joint Erev together with colony B. If they want, since they do have a gate, since they do have a doorway in the fence between colony A and colony B, they could combine into a joint combined Eruve Chatzeres. That would allow them to take the lawn chair from a bungalow colony in colony A and bring it to the Chatzer of colony B on Shabbos afternoon, because now they have one joint combined Eruve Chatzeres. The case that we spoke about in the beginning of Sif Aleph was where before Shabbos, colony A and colony B made a joint combined Erev. So they joined in one big Eruv Chatzeres. Now what happened in middle of Shabbos? In middle of Shabbos something happened and now the doorway got closed. The example that we gave was there isn't a chain link fence between colony A and colony B. There's actually a stone wall between colony A and colony B that has an opening in it. But now something collapsed and now the opening is closed up. So guess what? Now you no longer have an opening. If you no longer have an opening, now colony A and colony B are completely divided, and now really colony A and colony B cannot join in a combined Erev because they're separated by a stone wall that's more than 10 tefachim tall, and they don't have an opening. Now in our case, they had an opening at the outset of Shabbos, but now at some point during Shabbos, the opening got closed. We said in the beginning of Sif Aleph, what's the halacha in such a case? And the Mechaber said the halacha in such a case is that since you made the Erev before Shabbos started, based on the fact that you had this opening, the halacha is kevan shehutra l'tchila Shabbos, since the Erev was in effect at the outset of Shabbos, hutra l'chala Shabbos. The Erev remains in effect for the duration of Shabbos, and the Erev will allow you to transfer items, a keli sheshavas babayis in Chatzer A, you could move it to the Chatzer of Chatzer B, or to a bayis in Chatzer B, because that's what the Erev allowed you to do. Since the Erev was in effect at the outset of Shabbos, even though your opening got closed over the course of Shabbos, and now you would not be allowed to make such an Erev, since you had an Erev at the beginning of Shabbos, the Erev remains in play for the duration of Shabbos. That's what the Mechaber said in the beginning of Sif Aleph. Now we have a Rambam. The Rambam disagrees. Ula HaRambam. In my Mishnah Berurah, this is at the bottom line of Reish Mem Gimel Amud Beis. It's right by the Ois Katan Vav from the Mishnah Berurah. Says the Mechaber, Ula Rambam. According to the Rambam, the halacha is different. The Rambam does not agree with this halacha. Ula HaRambam, Ein mutar l'taltel ela kol achas la'atzma. All you're allowed to do based on this Erev is Chatzer A could take the lawn chair from their unit out into their Chatzer. In Chatzer B, they could take a lawn chair from their unit and bring it out onto their Chatzer. But to go from a unit in Chatzer A to the Chatzer of Chatzer B, or from a unit in Chatzer B to the Chatzer of Chatzer A, that you cannot do, says the Rambam. Aval mizul l'zul loy. You want to transfer from this Chatzer to that Chatzer, a keli sheshavas babayis in this Chatzer, to the Chatzer, or to one of the bottom of the other Chatzer, that is, the Rambam says you're not allowed to do. Now what's the svara of the Rambam? What does the Rambam seem to hold here? The Rambam seems to hold that, look, it's very nice that you had a joint combined Erev. And it's very nice that you want to say, Shabbos kevan shehutra hutra. Kevan shehutra l'tchilas HaShabbos, hutra l'chala Shabbos. But the problem is that, excuse me, kevan shehutra l'tchilas HaShabbos, hutra l'chala Shabbos cannot change the mitzias. It doesn't change the facts on the ground. You could only join in a combined Erev if you're one Chatzer. You're not one Chatzer. It's very nice. At the outset of Shabbos, you were one Chatzer. But now you're not one Chatzer. Now the opening broke you off. So what are you going to say? I had an Erev at the beginning of Shabbos, so the Erev should work for the duration of Shabbos? How could the Erev work? An Erev could only work if you have one Chatzer, so the Erev joins everybody in the Chatzer. But now you don't have one Chatzer. You have people living in this Chatzer, and you have people living in this Chatzer. You want to say that the Erev combines them as one? How could the Erev combine them as one? They're living in two separate Chatzerim. And the Magid Mishnah seems to say that the Rambam learns this from the halacha of two svinos, of two boats. We had a halacha that if you had two boats, and the boats were tied together, so now the boats could be viewed as one Chatzer. So now the people living on this boat and the people living on that boat could join into one combined Eruv Chatzeres. But now if the ropes get cut and the boats drift apart, so now one boat is over there, one boat is 2 nautical miles over there. You want to say that the Eruv Chatzeres is still in play? How can the Eruv Chatzeres be in play? It can't be. They're separate. So too over here. It's very nice you made a joint combined Erev at the outset of Shabbos. But now there was a Mapelis. Now the wall collapsed. You don't have an opening anymore. By virtue of what are you going to say that you're combined into one Erev? You can't be combined into one Erev. So says the Rambam, you made a joint Erev. Now let's remember how this works. You have 20 people living in Colony A, 20 people living in Colony B. Colony A made an Erev. Colony B made an Erev. Now they want to join in a combined Erev. So they took the box of matzahs from Colony A and they moved it into one of the houses in Colony B. And they said, now we're one big happy family. Now we're joining one combined Erev. Now the opening between the two chatzeres got closed off. The Rambam says you're not one chatzer anymore. So to transfer from one chatzer to the other, from a bias to the chatzer or to another bias in the other chatzer, that you can't do. But the Rambam says what you still can do is each chatzer still has its own individual eruve chatzeros. So chatzer A, you want to take a lawn chair from the bias to the chatzer for the Pirkei Avos chair? No problem. Same is true in chatzer B. They want to take a lawn chair from their bungalow to their chatzer for their Pirkei Avos chair? No problem. They still each have their own independent erev. Now there's a very big chiddush over here. The chiddush is, if the combined erev was made in the way I described, so that Colony A made their erev, Colony B made their erev, then Colony A took their box of matzahs and put it into Colony B, into one of the houses of Colony B. Now the Rambam is saying they no longer have a joint combined erev, but they still each have their own individual erev. There's a big chiddush here. Even Colony A, who took their box of matzahs before Shabbos, and they put their erev into Colony B, and now they cannot go to Colony B, get a matzah, and bring it over to Colony A. Because now you cannot transfer something that was Shavas Babayis, and the erev was Shavas Babayis in one of the bottom of Colony B. You can't take that matzah and bring it over to Colony A, because they no longer have a joint combined erev. So in a sense, the people who live in Colony A no longer have access to the erev. The erev is now locked over in Colony B. Still, the Rambam says that the individual eruvin remain in place, even for the chotzer where their erev is not in their chotzer. Colony B is not such a big chiddush. Colony B, that they have their erev. Their erev is by them. But Colony A no longer has their erev. Colony A's erev is over in Colony B, and they can't take from it and bring it back to their colony. Even so, the Rambam says, Colony A and Colony B each still have their own independent erev. Okay, this was quite a mouthful. Now let's take a look and see really all that I just said. We're going to see now in the Mishnah Berurah, Eis Katan Vav. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Eis Katan Vav Ula HaRambam. Says the Chavetz Chaim, Kai Areish HaSif. When the Mechaber brings down this Rambam, he's going back to the beginning of Sif Aleph. Heicha shenistam ha-Pesach b'Shabbos. The case where two chatzeros made a joint combined erev based on their having an opening between them, but now the opening got closed on Shabbos. Because according to the first opinion that the Mechaber said, Mutar lehishtamesh bizulazu derech chayrin. The Mechaber said that even though this opening got closed on Shabbos, you could still take a keli sheshavas babayis in one chotzer and bring it to the chotzer or one of the batim in the other chotzer, because kevin shehutra l'tchilas haShabbos, hutra l'chol haShabbos. Uladidei, but according to the Rambam, einoi mutar. According to the Rambam, this is not mutar. Ela kol chotzer la'atzma. The only thing that's mutar according to the Rambam is that each chotzer still has its independent erev. But to go back and forth, according to the Rambam, that's not mutar as long as the opening is closed. V'haravusahu, and the big chiddush of the Rambam is da afilu oisa chotzer she'ena erev munach b'soicha, even the chotzer where their erev is no longer by them, their erev is in the other chotzer because they moved it over, muteres. Their chotzer is still muter. They could still transfer a keli sheshavas babayis to their chotzer or a keli sheshavas b'chotzer to one of their batim, k'moi b'tchila, like it was at the outset of Shabbos. And the reason for this is Shabbos kevin shehutra l'tchila Shabbos, hutra l'chol Shabbos kula. Now, over here, the Rambam is still willing to say that. Because over here, what's the Rambam saying? What the Rambam is saying is, in our chutzner, we made an Erev. How did we make an Erev? We took a box of matzah. Everybody contributed to it. We were mezaka everybody in this box of matzah. And this box of matzah made us one big happy family. Now, what's the problem now? The problem is that the box of matzah is now located in chutzner B. And we can't get to chutzner B. Because chutzner B, we're no longer allowed to transfer between our chutzner and their chutzner because our opening got closed. Now on that we can't say because Lamaisa we're separate. So we can't join our two chatzerim based on Kevin Chotel Shabbos, Hutra L'chal Shabbos. But to join our chatzer, even though our Erev is over there, we can. Because we're still all together in one chatzer, and our Erev still exists. Our box of matzah is still over there. So by that, the Rambam is willing to say, Kevin Hutra L'chal Shabbos, Hutra L'chal Shabbos. Okay. Umikal Makaim. In my Mishnah Berurah, 2 lines from the bottom, continuing Mishnah Berurah is cut in Vav. Umikal Makaim im Chazar v'niftach. Even according to the Rambam, if this opening between the two chatzeros that got closed up on Shabbos, if it gets reopened, everybody would agree that now you could transfer between the two chatzeros like you were at the beginning. The Chavetz Chaim says that halacha l'maisa, we would paskin like the shita that was brought down at the beginning of Sif Aleph of the Mechaber, that even transferring from one chaser to the other chaser is going to remain mutter for the duration of Shabbos, based on Kevin Shehutra L'Tchilas HaShabbos, Hutra L'Chal HaShabbos, Kisvara HaRishayna, Kain Kasfu HaAchrayim. That's the way the Achrayim seem to paskin. Okay, now we're going to go weiter in Sif Beis. Could I trouble you, is the air conditioner on high? Put it on high and crank up the thermostat, put it, sweating bullets over here. Okay. Says the Mechaber in Sif Beis. Haya kaisel bein shtei chatzeros. Let's say there was a wall dividing colony A and colony B. Ve'erva kalachas la'atzma. And now what they decided to do is, they decided not to make a joint combined Erev. They decided to make 2 individual Eruvin. Okay, so Chatzar A made their own Erev, Chatzar B made their own Erev, and now the people who live in Chatzar A are mutter in Chatzar A, the people who live in Chatzar B are mutter in Chatzar B. Now what happened? V'nifratz ha'kaisel b'Shabbos. And now the wall fell down on Shabbos. And if you take a look in the Bir Halacha, in Dibra Maskel v'nifratz ha'kaisel b'Shabbos, what does that mean that the wall became breached on Shabbos? Hainu b'miluai, meaning either the entire wall fell down, or at least the wall became breached for an area that's longer than 10 amas. So now, let's just review in our minds what happened over here. You had Chatzar A and Chatzar B. Chatzar A and Chatzar B were separated by a wall. Since they were separated by a wall, they could each make their own independent Erev. And that's what they did before Shabbos. Each one made their own independent Erev. But now on Shabbos the wall fell down. Now, like we pointed out in the Bir Halacha, what does that mean that the wall fell down? The wall fell down either in its entirety, or if part of the wall still remains, but there's an opening now that's more than 10 amas wide. An opening that's more than 10 amas wide is not a doorway. That's a breach. Since it's a breach, now you no longer have 2 chatzeros. Now it's one big chatzer. Now they can't make 2 separate Eruvin. Now they have to make one joint combined Erev. But they didn't. They made 2 separate Eruvin. So now, what's the halacha? Says the Mechaber, Mutarim l'taltal kol ha-Shabbos kol echad b'chatzeroi. For the duration of Shabbos, the residents of each chatzer are allowed to carry afilu klei abayis. They're allowed to even transfer a keli sheshavas babayis into the chatzer. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Eis Cotton Zion, Kol echad b'chatzeroi. In each chatzer, they're allowed to continue transferring things. Da'af the kol chatzer nifratz atol rishos acheres shein mushatafin yachad. Even though now both chatzer A and chatzer B are breached to another chatzer that they don't have an Erev with, So each chutzner is now breached to a chutzner that answers it, right? Chutzner A is now breached to Chutzner B. Chutzner B is breached to Chutzner A. They didn't make a joint combined Erev. So they're totally breached to another Chutzner that they don't have an Erev with, and that other Chutzner is going to answer on them. Mikamakim, still, Kevan Sheben Hashmashais Hayom Mutter, since at the outset of Shabbos they were mutter because of their Erev, at the outside of Shabbos each one of the Chatzeros had an Erev, Hutter L'chol Shabbos, they remain mutter for the duration of Shabbos. And the logic over here seems to be that, look, we have 20 units in Colony A, you have 20 units in Colony B. Here in Colony A, we made an Eruv Chatzeros. That Eruv Chatzeros allowed us to take the lawn chair from the bungalow and bring it out to the yard for the Pirkei Avos share. Well, guess what? The Erev is still extant. The box of matzahs is still here. We're still one big happy family. We're still going to take the lawn chair from the unit to our chutzner, because Kevin Shehutra L'Tchilas HaShabbos, since the Erev allowed us to do that at the outset of Shabbos, the Erev is going to continue to allow us to do that. Now, there's a technicality. The technicality is that now we have another 20 units from Chutzner B that are now breached to us. So really, we should have to have an Erev with them also. All right, you know what? The Erev allowed us what we want to do. Our Erev allowed us to do that at the outset of Shabbos. So it's going to allow us to do that for the duration of Shabbos, even though we have this new problem. It's not going to allow us to do anything more. We're not allowed to now transfer over to the other chutzner because we didn't make an Erev with the other chutzner. But whatever it allowed us to do until now, it's going to continue to allow us to do. No Metzias really changed. Our Erev didn't vanish. Our Erev is still here. We're still all one happy family in our chutzner. So whatever it allowed us to do till now, it's going to continue to allow us to do. Va'afilu klei habayis, Mishnah Berurah is cut in ches. We could even transfer a keli sheshavas b'bayis. Di'ilu klei hachotzer, because as far as kelim sheshavasu b'chotzer, the lawn chairs that were in the chotzer, mutal l'taltal af b'chotzer l'chotzer gam kisherifratz. We could even take those lawn chairs over to chotzer B, because from one chotzer to another chotzer, you don't need a Eruv Chatzeros. The kol chatzeros rishos achas. All of the chatzeros are considered one rishos. Ukedela el b'reish siman Shinayin Beis, like we saw in the beginning of Shinayin Beis. Continues the Mechaber in Seif Beis. Second line, in the middle of the line. Aval, however, the Mechaber wants to be very careful to point out another halacha to you. Aval, chotzer shenifritza b'Shabbos l'rishos harabim or l'karmelis aser. Let's say you had a chotzer, and the chotzer had one wall that was adjoining the rishos harabim. Or it wasn't adjoining a Rishos Harabim, it was adjoining one of our streets, which we usually assume are not a real Rishos Harabim, they're a Carmelis. So now you have a Chatzar where one wall adjoins onto a Rishos Harabim or a Carmelis. And that wall fell down, or that wall was breached for an area more than 10 amas. Now you have a problem. Now you're not allowed to carry, forget taking a lawn chair from your bungalow to your Chatzar. If there's a lawn chair in the chutzner, you're not allowed to move that lawn chair more than Dalet Amas. Take a look at the Bir Halacha, Dibra Machschel Lekarmelis Aser. Ayin Bebeis Yaisish Shakasav. What does this mean? It's Aser. Dainu Sha'aser Letaltel B'Seich HaChatzer Yaisem Yarba Amos. Now you're not allowed to carry inside this chutzner for more than Dalet Amas. Ava B'Seich Yarba Amos Mutter Afil Letaltel Mimeno Lekarmelis Dunam Lekarmelis Dami. Basically, what the Mechaber is telling you over here is, you have a chutzner, and your chutzner becomes breached to Rishos Harabim, or your chutzner becomes breached to a Carmelis. Now, your chutzner is no longer a Rishos HaYachid. Now, your chutzner is a Carmelis. And in a Carmelis, you're not allowed to carry more than Dalet Amas. You now have an area that's surrounded on three sides. It's Mukav Gimel Mechitzis. Now we treat that as a Carmelis. And a Carmelis, you're not allowed to be metaltal more than Dalet Amas. So what the Mechaber is doing over here is, the Mechaber is being very careful to contrast these two halachas. In the beginning of the Seif, the Mechaber told you, if your chutzner becomes breached to another chutzner, so now you have an Issa D'Rabbanan, you're not allowed to carry from your house to that chutzner because you don't have Eruv Chatzeros. Okay, that's all that you can't do. But if you have a chatzar which is a rishus hayachid, but now your chatzar becomes breached to a rishus harabim, to a karmelis, now you have a new problem. Now you're not allowed to be metaltal more than dalet amas inside your chatzar, because now your chatzar is a karmelis. Says the Mishnah Berurah in ice cotton test. Aval a karmelis aser. Bazel lo yamrinan kevit jehutra hutra. K'may darmina meikara. Over here, there's no concept of kevit jehutra l'tchilas haShabbos, hutra l'chal haShabbos. Over here, we're not going to say, oh, it was mutter for me to carry inside this chutzner at the beginning of Shabbos because it was surrounded by 4 walls. It's a rishus hayachid. So now I should be able to carry for the rest of Shabbos also, even though one wall fell down and it's wide open to the rishus harabim. No, that you don't say. In the first case of Siv Beis, we were talking about when a chutzner became breached to a neighboring chutzner. Now the neighboring chutzner is also rishus hayachid. So you still have one big rishus hayachid over here. That we could say. The only difference between Chatzar A and Chatzar B is that Chatzar A belongs to these people, Chatzar B belongs to those people, and therefore there's an Issa D'Rabbanan moving back and forth. But everything is a Rishos HaYachid. But that's not the case over here. But now we're talking about a Chatzar which is a Rishos HaYachid that became breached to a different type of Rishus. It became breached either to a Rishos HaRambam or to a Karmelis. Now we're not going to say that Kevin Jehutra l'tchilas haShabbos, hutra l'chal haShabbos. Now you have a chatzar, now you have a rishus hayachid that became breached l'makam ha'asr, that became breached to a rishus harabim, to a karmelis where you're not allowed to carry. So now you're not allowed to carry inside this chatzar either. The ayin b'biur halacha, and the Chavetz Chaim says, see further in the biur halacha. And even though I fell short of what I wanted to cover, we're going to have to stop here for today. Thank you for joining me. Me'ez Hashem, we will continue this Sif tomorrow.